Welcome back to another episode on Modified with Trickfactory Customs. If this is your first time listening or watching, my name is Elvis.
Tim? Rob.
Yes. And we are here with one of the most talented fabricators currently working at the Ringbrothers. We have Ryan Fielding on. We've been looking forward to chatting with you for a while. And so when the opportunity came, we were like, yes, please, yes.
Yeah.
Tell them to come this way.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. No, it's a real treat and it's a pleasure. And it's a good way to get back in the rhythm of things after SEMA. Good to see you guys.
We saw you at SEMA. Yeah, good to see you. How is it going? The whole journey back from SEMA and all of that?
Well, you know, it's always it's a transition back, especially for us, right? We're in Wisconsin, so when we leave, generally the weather's pretty decent. And we've been real fortunate this year. It's very mild, but a lot of times we'll come back to snow and freezing temperatures. This year wasn't too bad, but the larger transition is just from SEMA mode of 2 completed cars to we have 2 bare chassis basically and 2 donor cars. So we're starting that whole process
doing it again.
over.
Yeah.
So you guys don't get like a month or 2 off just to chill and take it easy?
That would certainly be nice, but that is not the case.
We always got customers waiting for us when we get back. So we get Monday and then Tuesday, they're on us again.
Right.
Yeah. So like how long have you been in the custom car world?
Yeah.
Let's start with the basic question.
Right. So I'm 3rd generation actually. So my grandfather had a shop. He was actually a stuntman back in the 40s, and then had a hot rod shop, and he built race cars and he raced motorcycles and built hot rods and he do collision stuff. Back then everybody was a welder and a fabricator and a car builder, especially if you're in the hot rods, right? You had to do it all. The painter. My father, he built hot rods and bikes, and I grew up in his world, and of course I've been at it now 25 plus years, and it's just one of those things where when people talk about it being in your blood, it's in my blood. I've got pictures where I'm actually I still own the vehicle. It's a 47 Ford, and I've got a picture of me maybe 4 or 5 years old, and I've got a Black & Decker sander in my hand, and I was sanding the hood on that truck, helping my old man, and I'm fortunate enough to still have that truck. So it's been in me for a while.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah.
So it's easy to say that it's in your DNA. It's naturally occurring for you.
Right. Yeah.
Did you ever have any sort of like idea, like thought of maybe pursuing something else, or was it this is what I want to do and this is it?
No, I tried. I went to college, so my old man told me, he said keep it a hobby, because if you turn it into a career, it might become a job. In other words, right, like that passion can escape you sometimes through the monotony of doing the same thing over and over. So
right. With
that in mind, I really leaned on the custom side to keep that excitement and that passion and that creativity going. But prior to that, I went to school for engineering, and I thought that would be a good use for those skills. That I can still do that stuff on the side. And it didn't take long, and I realized that like I'm just fooling myself. I belong out in the shop, not at a desk at a computer. So that's how that went. But yeah, I certainly tried, and it drew me back in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the passion just had you, right? So, I mean, we can totally relate to that. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. And it's so cool to see. How long have you been? Have you always been with Ringbrothers, or did you have a shop before that?
I had my own shop for just under 20 years, and did a lot of custom paint, a lot of pretty wild sheet metal work, and heavy on the motorcycles and the like traditional hot rod scene. Pre-64, lead sleds and 34s and 32s and hot rod stuff. And then, a lot of custom bikes and whatnot. But I was real fortunate. So Mike and Jim and myself, we all grew up in the same town. We've known each other since forever.
No way.
I had my shop the next town over, basically a half an hour up the way. And, we've always stayed in touch. And over the years, we had kicked around the idea of teaming up. And, some number of years ago, we had a conversation. And, Mike said, hey, why don't you come build cars with me and Jim? And here I am. It's it's been amazing. It's been a journey, and I'm excited to be a part of such an incredible team. And we have a lot of fun, and we really rely on each other every day. Everybody in the shop, through the machine shop and the body shop and the fab shop, with Mike and Jim. It's really a team environment as far as how we look at these projects and how we move forward through them, and that alone is priceless, right? To have just that much brain power and different eyes and different ideas. That's why we come up with some of the stuff that we do, right?
Yeah, and you guys are kind of like leading the charge. You guys have, I mean, this year was an especially amazing year. If anybody listening or watching has not heard of Ringbrothers and what you guys debuted this year, you're literally living under a rock. It's ridiculous. So you guys are like pushing some serious boundaries.
Yeah.
And really, really inspiring a lot of people. They're either being inspired or they're just like, that's it, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That car almost makes you want to give up.
I'm like, oh, what else can you even do? It's like,
So that's pretty cool. But like you said, like being a part of an amazing team is sort of like key to that whole thing. I mean, we talk about it often in our shop too. We have a pretty small little team. And we like to push some boundaries, pushing ourselves, pushing each other, in a fun and sort of cool environment is sort of what it's all about. Really, that's what leads you to sort of coming up with the things that you guys are doing, what we're all trying to, pursue.
Right.
It's all about that for sure.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
No, and thank you for the compliments on Octavia. We're really proud of that car. And that's one that for sure, you probably heard me talk about it at SEMA when we debuted that car, that, it really does take a village. And that's not just in-house. I mean, that's with all the people that were involved in that project.
Wow.
Not to sound like a NASCAR driver here, listing off our
sponsors list,
the companies we work with. But I mean, honestly, it really took everybody, not just here at the shop, but everybody from Dakota with the gauges and HRE with the wheels and Advanced with the plating and our carbon manufacturer and, Harrop with the supercharger. Just, it goes on and on and on. And I'm sure I'm Gentex with all the wild tech. You saw the visors and the mirrors and stuff. We could have those ideas, but being able to make them come to life and function as flawlessly as they do, that requires having people that are at the absolute top of their game in whatever niche market that they have with Gentex, with that technology. I mean, we could talk about wanting all that stuff, but those guys, they live and breathe, view angles and mirror dynamics and all these different, they have just a wealth of knowledge just in that one component, and being able to really pull from people across the industry that are, that into whatever their particular niche is. Again, Harrop with the supercharger. We built a one-off supercharger for that car.
Wow.
And that wasn't the intention from the beginning, but that's the way it worked out, that we needed to do that. And to have a company like that be able to step up and design, engineer, produce essentially a one-off supercharger is really special. And it results in a vehicle that everybody can be proud of, because, it really did take all of those people, not just us in the fab shop or Ringbrothers as a whole, but across the board, everybody involved is why that project, looks the way it does, and kind of, you said it, it blew some minds. That's because we just had a really great team to work on it with.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too, that you're giving, like, I admire all the credit that you're giving to everybody like that worked on it, because like you said, like, it takes a village, because we're building a car now. And again, without the people that are like the sponsors and all of that, like you said, the NASCAR, like reading out all the whole sheets is, it's compiling all the names of all the sponsors for the build that we're doing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many people on so many teams, companies, and without them, like, you can have an idea, but you can't really put it down without the people that are by your side. So that's pretty cool. And
it's funny you mentioned that with that list. I made a post on Instagram the other day, just kind of reflecting on SEMA and the project, and it only lets you tag 20 people, and I'm like, what? There's so many more. Like, I need to make like 4 more posts to be able to get
You got to be careful of that stuff because I think it's like an actual, hierarchy of you. Like,
Right.
if you miss somebody, the more
Yeah, so I always try to throw that in there of like, I'm sure I missed somebody and I apologize. Text me later and I'll I'll Venmo
in
you
no
a beer or
particular
something.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is really cool. But speaking of which, I feel like for some people that might not know, because we have people that might not actually be watching, but if you could describe the car that you guys brought this year, or the car, you guys brought more than one car, the Aston and the Mustang, right?
Correct.
Or for people that are just listening, if you could describe Octavia,
Yeah.
what is it?
So we started with a 71 Aston Martin DBS. And if you're familiar with those cars, they're in James Bond movies and stuff. They're pretty slab-sided, but they're a cool car, right? They're a cabin rearward coupe. They have a look that makes you think of a lot of different cars. And so we started with that, and from there, completely 3D scanned the entire car and designed the entire machine, tip to tail, was designed to CAD. Interior, chassis, all of it, right? Everything's bespoke, everything's one-off to that car. We stretched the rear 10 inches, the front 8 inches wide. I'm sorry, not stretched, but widened the rear 10 inches, the front 8. Clamshell hood, full carbon, roadster shop. There's a name I forgot to mention previously. So it's their chassis. They've got custom shocks that they debuted this year at SEMA. That's what we're one of the first cars to have them on. But that was all designed from the get-go. And then we started laying carbon. It's custom glass, and you talk about some of the things that kind of take it to the next level with that car. With it all being designed in CAD, the interior was no exception, and everything in the interior is either carbon or machined foam, and then wrapped in leather and or exposed carbon. So even the seats, that was something that was new to me. That you can machine soft foams. The seats are super plush, very comfortable. They were designed in CAD, and that soft foam that you associate with a nice, comfortable seat, that was machined. Now, how they are able to fixture that and machine the backside, I have no idea. They did. Right. And it results in just a beautifully ergonomic, comfortable seat that, it blends with the rest of the vehicle perfectly, right? And that's with having the designers be the same guy that looked at the grill as did the seat buckets, and that's a conversation that's fluid and happens throughout the entire process. We have a basic idea of rendering of what the scope is going to be, and then all those little details. There's 20 conversations about each one of those, and that's a lot of fun for us here in the shop too, because we'll. Let's say it's a hood. We might print out 20 rough sketch hood renderings, and then we talk about what we like, and we like the inlet on this one, and maybe this looks a little wide. If that were narrower, and we can kind of do that. And again, it's that team environment where we can then get kind of everybody's opinion, and we end up with some really cool stuff, and and then refine that from there and into CAD and start making those molds. But yeah, that car. When you hear something being widened 10 inches in the rear and 8 in the front, we had to modify our trailer in order to get it to.
Yeah, really?
We did. And, it's,
Wow.
She's wide, and it looks really cool. I tell you what, when I had the fortunate, circumstance of following Ben Collins, the Stig. So he drove that car, out of Pahrump at the racetrack west of Vegas there for half a day. And it needed to go to the Win for the concourse right before SEMA, and we were going to throw it in the trailer, and he said, no, I'll drive. So I followed him an hour and a half through the desert at sunset into Las Vegas, and tell you what, sitting behind that car with all the work that we put into it, watching it roll down a desert highway at sunset, that was pretty special.
Yeah, no kidding.
People talk about top tier moments. That was one.
Yeah,
especially who's behind the wheel. It's
that's yeah. It's just checking all kind of boxes. It's special moments for sure. Right. It's incredible. Wow.
Yeah, and so would you say that is one of the top automotive moments? Have there been a lot of those for you, or?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, but prior to that was watching that car go out on the racetrack. We built a lot of cars, and we've got a lot of customers that drive the heck out of them. but it's not the same as a multi-decade professional stuntman, professional race car driver on a closed professional race course, putting that car through its paces, pushing it as hard as you can without going into the weeds. That was, don't go into the weeds. We have to debut this thing. But, let us have it. We want to know what this thing's capable of and what you think. And that right there. I tell you what, we're all on pins and needles, and I don't think anybody had fingernails left. But we were up in the viewing tower and watching him go around the track, and that's a car that not that long ago was just a pile of sheet metal on the shop floor. Wow. And that's a top moment right there. I would put that above any awards or magazine features or television appearances, that sort of thing. Just that private moment of us not talking, just listening to that supercharger whine going around the racetrack. That was pretty special.
Oh, that's so cool. What was Ben's final say on the driving experience?
Well, I tell you what, it was funny. His final say and kind of towards the end, the last say, he got out after his first 2 laps and he said it was too stable.
Oh yeah.
So now Josh and Jeremy and Phil from Roadster Shop were there. Yeah. And I looked at Josh and I said, "You think we can get him to say that again, but we wearing a Roadster Shop shirt this time?" And he's a driver, right? So what he wanted that rear end to come around a little bit,
rotate a little bit.
And the way he described it too is, he knows on when he's throwing the wheel where that weight is shifting to which tire and how he can apply that to shot himself out of a corner. And right, for the rest of us, we just end up in the cactuses.
For sure.
But that was really cool to hear him say that, it's that stable. So he wanted to loosen it up some. And then all said and done, at the end of it, actually, I've got an email from him here that I was reviewing earlier. He just had some notes. And one of those was just to get a little bit of ride height in the back to put some of that weight to the front, again, to get that rear just a little looser. Yes. But he's, that's being a race car driver about it.
Yeah, getting nitpicky.
Right.
Yeah.
Final analysis as far as a cruiser is, he talked about that drive that we took into Las Vegas. He said, there's nothing to do. It's perfect.
Wow.
Which that was.
But if you
really
set
cool.
it up, but if you set it up for like the track, is it gonna ruin it on the road then, or is it gonna be? How did Roadster Shop design the shocks?
Yeah.
So to make it adjustable.
No,
and
I think you'd be just fine. And again, I am confident that if it's set up for Ben exactly how I wanted it, 99% of us aren't going to really know the difference because we're not going to be pushing it so hard to feel that weight transfer the way that he is, right? Like he's looking at really pushing things. So I think that if you set it up primo for the track, 99% of the people are still not going to know any difference when you're on the street because it's, these are very minute adjustments. He's talking about, lifting the right rear a quarter inch and
The fact that he wanted to drive it back to town kind of speaks volumes. Because generally they get out and be like, "Not the edge."
Right. Well, and again, talk about being a little nerve-wracking. So as we came into Las Vegas, now it's dark. It's Halloween night, and I'm in an F450 behind him, play defense best I can, just trying to keep my eyes peeled as far as, some craziness
drunk people or something. Yeah.
But again, I just have to remind myself that it's Ben Collins driving the car and it's going to be just fine.
Yeah. Oh, that is so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, and you just look at the car and you can automatically just assume that it's going to be dialed perfectly.
Yeah,
it looks so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you can go.
I got to ask, because you mentioned that you came from traditional hot rods and I assume choppers.
Yeah.
When you say motorcycles, it's kind of our background too. So going from the traditional to where you are now, and like I mentioned it to the brothers, I was like, you guys kind of downplay the use of technology. Like they, pretty chill guys, but obviously you guys are heavily immersed in it.
Right.
So what was the transition of that? Like because I know for us, like it's just opens doors. You're like, oh shit, like we can do anything now.
It's a pretty easy transition when you again, and you'll hear me talk about having a great team a lot, and you'll hear Mike talk about it with the younger guys, right? These guys that they can pull out their phone and they're 3D printing a prototype part, after lunch. Well, that's a foreign world to traditional hot rod guys. That was foreign to Mike and Jim, but have these talented young guys that number one know the technology, and it's so intuitive to them to design something and here's a 3D printed part that we can mock up or look at or whatever, within hours. That's really special. So the transition was made a lot easier for us by having people that are so immersed in it and so comfortable with it that we don't have to have that same learning curve of how do I design it and make the printer work and do all these things. We can look at, I use an example. There was a project we did on the CUDA. This was a couple years back, and we needed to design an exhaust tip, and it went from we sketched it out in the fab shop in cardboard. I just kind of taped it on the rear splash pan and had masked out a section and spray painted it black, like what the inside of the exhaust tip would be, right? And with a little chrome reveal, just taped it on there and looked at it and liked the shape. And we gave that to the guys in the prototyping engineering department. And by lunch, they had a 3D model in SolidWorks. And on my desk the next morning was a printed version of this thing we made in cardboard. And that's great, right? You look at that, and we hit it with the belt sander a little bit and said, all right, make this, but in metal. And they did, that's
wow.
So that's really, really special for us again, because those guys are so talented with it. And that's the thing that they are really itching to show their skills in. And that's a very different skill set than what I have, than what Mike has, Jim, and the other guys in the fab shop. Everybody has those unique talents. We've got guys that are welders that could be welding on the space shuttle. I mean, honestly, it's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And you being able to have this cornucopia of talent is really special. And to your question about the technology, right? That's the same thing. It's the young guys. Honestly, it's I haven't seen a young guy in their 20s that just wants to beat metal and English wheel and planishing hammer and that sort of thing. They're out there, but it's not the same as the guys that are at that age that are into 3D printing and what they can do in SolidWorks and 3D design and all these different, and machining and these, really technologically heavy avenues. That's where they excel. So blending those two worlds is how we do what we do. And it's exciting to be a part of, like, especially when we can just make something out of cardboard and they print it out. We call it the smart guy building. The kids in the smart room, they take our cardboard Neanderthal little origami pieces, and they'll make a really beautiful billet part, and it's just great.
Yeah, it truly is an exciting time now, isn't it? Just for all of that, like to go back, like, maybe your old world sort of style. I am the same, like old world fabricator, did it with cardboard maybe at best. And like to take that sort of hands-on experience and then go and talk to the engineering department. And like you said, like that blend of the new tech and the old world, it's really, really fun. Like I love going into their little space and then having that back and forth, because like what you just described with that whole, prototype piece ready the next day, the reality that that's a thing nowadays is so fucking cool.
Right.
And like it just blows my mind and opens so many different sort of thought avenues on what you can actually make now. Right. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and with back to Octavia too, the interior, there was so much of that bright work on the interior that was 3D printed stainless steel.
Wow.
And that's
wow.
That's new to us. We had used it lightly. Our horn buttons on our we have our own line of steering wheels and billet wheels, and the horn buttons are printed stainless. And we leaned on that technology real heavy with the interior. So pretty much if you look at the inside of that car, short of the steering wheel itself and the steering column, and the handles themselves on the door, pretty much everything else that you see that's shiny is 3D printed stainless. And that on the outside of the car, the headlight bezel, the trim rings on the headlights, on the inside, the shifter, the park brake, all the gauge bezels, all the knobs and controls and buttons on the mirror, all that stuff, all 3D printed stainless, which again, the benefit for us, especially with the time frames that we try to build these cars within. These things are able to happen overlapping of one another. You know, the headlight bezels can be being printed, before we even have the carbon grill that the headlights mount into, because it's all been designed in CAD. So whatever order, you're able to get things out, they can start coming in. And that was something that was a challenge for us, because generally on one of our builds, we are still fairly traditional in starting with the chassis and, hanging sheet metal and doing the things that you normally do, and then widening them out and whatnot. Whereas with this car, with it all being done in CAD and having a deadline that we gave ourselves to debut it at the Quail and then again at SEMA, we had to really kind of think theory of things that are going to be made out of order, right? You don't have the part that is associated with this particular thing, but it needs to get made in order to free up time down the road for that manufacturer, that person that we're tasking with doing that. So it was a new challenge, but again, with the with technology and again the print technology, where they can get so tight tolerances on these things that you really don't have any concern about fitment. It's just a matter of how you're going to mount these things and get all that fit and finish just exactly how you want it to be.
Yeah, no doubt. We're adapting to that now, because this is the first car that we've done completely in CAD, like chassis, all the parts, mold, 3D printing panels, all that kind of stuff. And it's like sort of, it's going to fit, but until it fits, you kind of doubt it. And even our CAD guy is like, and you ask him, you're like, is this going to fit? He's like,
hopefully.
Peter. Yeah. And then you go fit it, and everything fit perfect. Yeah. So we're slowly building that confidence with all that kind of stuff so that we can start standing it out, because hey, if it fits in here, it's going to fit over here. Mm-hmm. And the stuff is so accurate and comes back. And we've messed with some 3D metal printing, and we got 3 printers that are basically, they're 24 hours a day here now, just making parts to test fit stuff and concepts and show customers this is what it's going to look like. So it's alleviated a lot of stuff like that. But I look at that car and I don't think you could have built that car 5 years ago.
No, I agree.
I don't think you could have. I look at that thing and I was like, that thing looks like Aston Martin built it.
Literally.
It is so perfect. There's nothing out of place on it. Yeah, it's almost too nice. Yeah, I don't think
that needs to go on the T-shirt right after it's too stable.
Yeah, too nice.
Too stable. Too nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's another custom car ever been built that's as close to OEM plus as what Octavia actually is.
That's a heck of a compliment. Thank you so much.
For real,
we're really proud of that car, and it pushed all of our limits. Mm-hmm. And it's everybody from design, engineering, fab shop, body shop, assembly, wiring, all of it. We really had to lean on one another to get it to the finish line, and that was one that we had a conversation after we finished that car that there's no going the other direction from here.
I was going to ask,
that's the new marker for
that's
us,
the new
right?
bar.
You can't. Mm-hmm. How do you go back to like you say, you couldn't have built that car 10 years ago. How do you go back to doing one like you did 10 years ago? You can't, because how good it can be done and how level. And honestly, it comes down to to having the great customers that we do that allow us to build these cars. That's the only thing that would stall that process at all is you just have to have continued relationships with these customers that allow us to push those limits, because there is a lot of experimenting, there is a lot of unknowns. And with Octavia, we had an amazing customer that he saw the vision, and he was in it. He was there for the build, and he didn't want to stifle any of that process by nickeling out any one part of it. He was in it, and that's really a special thing. That's just as important as the people building the cars, as having the guy that allows you to do it for him. Because at the end of the day, you're building a product for a customer, and mm-hmm. you need to keep it within the margins that you've discussed. And to have somebody that really let us push that envelope was really special, and we're just so fortunate.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a rare customer. As they always, all of them are the same. Money's no object until
it's an
the
object.
money starts flowing. Yeah, that is an object.
Yeah.
It's usually about the halfway point. Like, so are we getting close?
Right.
We've got all the big things, right?
Right.
You're like, yeah, it's not just the big things. The little things will beat you up too.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's you can't forecast for the unknown, right? Like we were real fortunate with this car, and you talked about it too with things fitting, right? That's the one benefit to having a full design in CAD is that generally speaking, you're eliminating a lot of the problems that you might have run into otherwise. Say you're moving the wheelbase on a car and you go hang sheet metal and now you're crashing into the fender or something and you have to modify control arms or sway bar links or whatever the case is. In this instance, all of that should have been figured out in CAD, right? That you have. I remember one of the drawings showed the turn angle of the tire and it had the red coming through the fenders just everywhere, right? And being able to look at that as a problem on a computer is a lot better than looking at that problem on a carbon fiber clamshell. So that in itself, that's a big one too, is eliminating those. You get the wheels back from HRE and you mount the tires and you put them on and you run it to ride height and you're crashed into stuff. Like that happens in the old way of doing it. And then you have to modify the fender or whatever it is you're going to do. You flare them more or whatever. But being able to, before we even pick up the first hammer and piece of sheet metal or lay the first patch of carbon, to know that this is an obstacle that needs to be overcome and thought about and designed around, that's where you get that OEM++, right? Because all of those things happened in advance of that problem existing. So it could be part of the design instead of, clearly they ran into a steer angle issue, so they put these flares on or whatever, That's where you can, really excel. And that for us, being able to just build was great and be confident in those measurements. There's one when you were talking about that part fitting. I remember one moment specifically was the clamshell hood. So we had built essentially the engine was in, the radiator, all of the wheels and the inner fenders, and all these things were in there. And the lower fenders in the rear, so right in front of the door, there's that kind of half fender. And that's where the clamshell closes to with like a little bit less than a 1/4 inch gap. And we got the clamshell, and we had already put the hinge mounts on. And this was all just based on reading measurements off of CAD of where they needed to be in what angle. I remember we put that hood on, and we all looked at each other like, well, let's see if it closes. And, there it was. And within spec of, you still have to adjust it, of course, but for all we knew, if you're off by a 1/2 inch somewhere in the back, you're going to close the hood and it's going to land on the windshield. You just don't know until you get it and put it on. Like you can measure 100 times, but you don't know until it's there and bolted on.
It's actually there.
I tell you what, that's such a good feeling. And it inspires confidence in the rest of the project too, when that first time you close it and it lines up and you're like, oh shoot, like, bump it back a 1/16 and we're golden. Put the latches on it. That's really special. And again, 10 years ago, you wouldn't be able to do that. You need that part before you can build anything around it. Otherwise, you're just completely guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just testament to your all the forethought, the engineering, the build team actually doing the actual dimensional reading and putting everything together. I mean, that's major teamwork coming together right there.
Right.
I mean, it's
and
the way you described it. Just
that's
incredible.
One where we try to be real good about not just one of us measuring it. Even if one guy measures it 20 times, like give it to the next guy. And like you look at it, like, and the thing that scares me, and I tell the guys all the time, if you measure something out and it measures perfectly the first time, you're doing something wrong. Because that just, if all of a sudden you put it up, you're like, oh yeah, perfect. Like, no, there's something's going on, right? So we like to measure till you find like something isn't. There's no way it's that perfect right off the bat, right? Measure and put a transit on it and whatever you got to do until you find some difference, and then try to see if that is the consistent difference, and then then you're confident. But if all of a sudden just everything over the course of 8 feet is down to a 32nd of an inch, like you're fudging that ruler somehow somewhere.
I mean, you truly have to think that, right? Yeah, that's amazing.
But like, so all of this work that you've put into customer cars so far, like, do you have anything that you're building or like that you're like you would for sure apply some of these to, like all the CAD stuff, or do you have any projects?
You mean myself personally, or in the shop?
Yeah. Your projects, yeah, anything.
Well, the ones I've got, I've had for years, like that one that I built with my father, and I still have my bikes and such. But honestly, I get such a kick out of being able to build for a customer, and the benefit there is, right, for guys like us and you guys, the thrill is in the build, right, in the process, and when it's done, like that's great, and you love to show it off, but you have that itch to keep building and to, if it's fabricate or machine or design, whatever it is. And the benefit with having these great customers is that we get to constantly evolve and keep building new and exciting stuff. And we feel, personal ownership to each one of those vehicles. Of course, it goes and lives with the client, but we definitely feel that part of that car is ours. And a lot of us are that way. We really pour everything into these vehicles, and most of us have dailies that are pretty turn the key and go home, right? And there's something to be said about that as well. But we all, everybody's got their hobbies here, which is great. And most of them are all automotive related, right? But not necessarily the same as like what we do with these builds. Some guys are into pulling trucks, or like for myself with motorcycles and doing off-road stuff, and it's in all of our blood, but having that something different to release on outside of work is important. And then coming back into the shop, that's where you really get to be creative and let your passion shine, is in these projects that we're intimately familiar with these vehicles for years, right? Like you're day in, day out, every nut, bolt, you're really in it with these cars. And there's something intimate about that, and special that sticks with you. We can look at a car that comes back for, whatever reason, that customer wants different gauges or something. And we have cars that haven't been seen, in the shop in 15 years, and they come back. And,
wow.
I remember that. And, and the guys get nostalgic about, like, oh, you remember how that worked? Or you look at it, you kind of laugh and have these different things, because, they're like children when they go away and they come back, and you're happy to see them. That's for sure.
Some of them are attached to customers you wish would stay away.
Yeah. And so, like, what, for a project like this, so not even just Octavia, but in general, like, what is the hardest part of managing all of this? Because I'm sure you do a lot of that at your shop. But what's the hardest part? Is it the timeline, the precision, the problem solving?
The timeline for sure. So with this one, what we did was a little bit new. We've always had a version of it, but we really needed to be almost, I hesitate to say down to the hour, but it felt like it. What we did was, at the beginning, before we even had a bare chassis, we started at the debut and worked our way back. So, all right, debut, travel time.
Wow.
Photo shoot, detailing, test driving, and then went through final assembly and wiring, all the way back through, and paint and body, interior. Worked our way back to a point where we had chassis arrives. Right.
Oh, wow.
And obviously we had to revisit every couple of weeks and adjust and modify and add things. But that was the only way to keep so many moving parts. The left hand knowing what the right hand is doing, except in this case, there were 6 right hands and 7 left hands. So we really needed to lay it out that way. And that was challenging, because you have to forecast potential for problems. And then again, without seeing those parts, have an understanding of what you think interior might take, what the layout on the carbon hood might take, what layout on the quarters might take. And it's having conversations with all of those vendors of like, hey, what do you think, it's going to take to make the molds for this? And then updating that as we go and being able to check those things off. And that was the only way that we were able to hit those marks, because say you're 3 months out and you realize that you have 6 months of work to do, you're just out of luck. There's and that can happen real quick. And we had some.
We were guilty of that this year.
Yeah, it happens, and that's the only way we were able to avoid that was, again, like I said, literally day by day. From we accounted for again for the photo shoot day and detailing and travel time, all the way back through chassis arrives, and then again modified as we went and narrowed the detail, but had the big chunks in there, and that was a big challenge. And then with that, of course, all of our vendors that we need to order stuff from, not just the custom stuff, but if it's ARP with the hardware, there's another one I forgot to mention, right? We had custom bolts made for that car. Every bolt on that car is an ARP bolt, and there's some that are sized and were specific to this build that we need to have custom made, and that doesn't just happen, right? You can't just call up and ask for a one-off bolt and have it next day to you. It takes time, and being able to plan for those things was a challenge for sure.
No doubt, especially when you're like digging so far into something so new,
right?
And like trying to like push into a whole different space. I can't even imagine how hard that was. I mean, it's just your guys' team is clearly filled with like exceptional.
So we've tried to do some stuff like that, and it's hard to explain to a customer how much work is what you just explained. Right. Mm-hmm. Like that's probably a solid week's worth of, okay, call this guy and find out how long that's going to take so that we can place this in here. Yeah. It's like, that was probably a 2-week process in itself.
Yeah, it's
before you could even start doing stuff. But it's like trying to convey that message to the customers, like, oh, we have to find out all these information so that we can develop a timeline for you, because like they're always like, what's a realistic timeline? We're like, well, we don't know what you want, and we don't know if we can get it or when we can get it or how we can get it. Then we can have that conversation. Right. So
yeah, it's
a big part of it.
Is, and like you say, it's difficult to try to explain that process, and it's difficult to go through it, because you may sometimes you're laying it out and like, all right, I just need to get this information, and you're not able to get a hold of whoever it is to get the answer you need, and that delays the next 4 things you had in line. And but again, it's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people involved. And I think especially once we got really going on this project, working with those guys has always been great. But once we had a kind of a head start on this project, once they saw what we're doing, that really elevated their excitement for it as well, to really be a part of something that we thought and knew was going to be real special.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love the part that you talked about the timeline and working that backwards of when you think it was going to be done, and for even accounting the photo shoot in it too. I'm like, oh, I would not even have thought about that. But that kind of gives you also like a timeline of, okay, if you have all of this time allocated elsewhere, like you're like, okay, realistically, these things can fall into place when they should, I guess, from like the chassis arriving to you guys assembling everything. So that's pretty good. That's amazing.
I think for the industry, it's becoming a much more common conversation. Because traditionally, I don't know about custom shops where you are. Custom shops where it's like you dropped your car off and who knows when you got it back.
Right.
Customer's gone, you're gone, it's not getting worked on. There's no real expectations. It just kind of, and then all of a sudden it comes front of mind for them, and then they're pissed off because you're like, well, I haven't seen you in 4 months, so I don't know what was going on.
Right.
But now it's like the business side of it, and we try to talk to as many guys as we can. Like this conversation of like better planning and sort of all that stuff and timelines is becoming a lot more common, like of a conversation. So I think it's improving the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. And it's important too to have those conversations with the customer and to have clear, have a clear conversation about what their expectations are. And if it's going to be a SEMA debut, let's talk about that. And, there's things with that become unique to a SEMA build. And really what it comes down to is those last, say, 2 or 3 months leading up to SEMA, like your invoices are going to get big quick.
Well, they get big fast.
Because we get into July, August, and like there's 4 or 5 guys and interior and paint and body and assembly and wiring, and then, you know, parts are coming in, and those bills go from, you know, from manageable to scary quick. We try to, before we even bring the donor car in, we try to mitigate any of those concerns and have a conversation about what that looks like, right? And I think that's real important. But then also, you know, to your point, there's customers that I think the old way was, oh, you know, when I'm not in a big hurry. Well, everyone's in a big hurry. They're not. They like to say that, but you know, everybody wants to see progress on their project, and you know, having done enough of these, we're able to generally give a baseline of what those hours are going to look like. And even with something like Octavia, where we knew those hours are going to be pushed, you're still able to have this is our goal deadline. And, you know, and then you talk budget and you talk time, and, you know, keeping the customer informed throughout, eliminating any big surprises, I think is crucial to having that relationship stay pleasant throughout, right? Nobody likes a surprise. And that goes on both sides, right? As a shop, you don't want to hear the like, oh, I'm out of money and I don't have any more, you know, and we're halfway through or whatever. And of course they don't want to, you know, have the surprise of you know, a number that they weren't expecting, right? So it's real important to just have a clear line of communication always. And again, yeah. Oh, hey, everybody say hi to Mike Ring.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Midnight. Always working that one. He was, you know, that's the thing. We're getting back from SEMA, right? And, you know, we got to clear the loft. There's a bunch of Aston Martin parts up there, and we're doing a GTO and a Dodge Charger next. And, you know, we got to, we're tripping over Aston Martin parts, trying to look for GTO grills. And, you know, Mike, he played like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. He's been a dust rat the last 2 days up in the attic, cleaning out the
sorting stuff out,
clean shelves, and you know, same with Kingpin, that Mustang, right? We're up there going through like, you know, do we need this? Do we need that? Should we, you know, send this back with Jake? Is this garbage? You know, and there's that's another obstacle, honestly, is organization.
I was going to ask you, what does the organization look like in your shop?
Oh my God. Well, you know, fast. And things will be like a dream garage, an advertisement for somebody that organizes shops, right? And inside of a week, it looks like a tornado went through. And that happens. It happens 2 times. One, when we first get into a build, so you're tearing down the original, right? You've just got stuff everywhere. And then that last month or 2 leading up to SEMA, because, you know, you're looking for that pigtail connector for that Holly Terminator, and you're just going like this and dumping bins out because you don't have time. And, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, you go upstairs one day after you get back and you're like, oh man.
It's just staring you in the face. Yeah. That's what happened to us. We got back and we were crunching as hard as we could because we were supposed to take something this year, and then we finally had to call it, and then we went anyways because we had to go shake all the hands and apologize to sponsors and blah, blah, blah. And then you come back and you have a fresh set of eyes on all the carnage that you had created over the last month. Oh, man. So I think we spent a week just cleaning up from when we got back.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. You know, I was laughing. I was speaking with Mike earlier, like yesterday, I finally unpacked my suitcase. Like it's, right? Because number one, you're just exhausted from the week. And then you're getting back into the swing here, and it's, you know, time zone shift and all the different things, right? It's real. And it was yesterday we're finally like, all right, I need to like do some laundry and unpack this suitcase here, because, you know, it was into the shop.
We're starting it all over again.
Yeah, trying to, you know, get these new projects going, and, you know, get home, eat something, and tip over, right? Try to catch up on sleep, and it's a lot, and it's no different in the shop, right? Especially. Again, right now we're blessed with some nice weather, so we cleaned out the shed and some of the outdoor stuff as well, because that just, especially in the winter, you know, you guys know being up where you're at, but especially in the winters, you know, when you get here in the Midwest, you don't want to be outside any longer than you have to.
No.
And when you got to go out to the shed to try to find parts, that's no fun.
Oh, that is not fun.
Someone over 3 cars ago worth of parts trying to, it's a good thing to get all that cleaned up, and a fresh start and a regroup, a reset is important. Because again, if I could pick up this computer and take you out in the shop right now, there's 2 road shop chassis and 2 donor cars, that we're tearing into just as
Wow.
just as hot and heavy as we were, last year at this time when we were getting the Aston Martin ready. So it's
But what keeps you guys especially you in the position you're in? Like, what keeps you still kind of like pumped for the next one? Because I'm sure, like, after spending 20 hours a day or whatever it is, especially with the crunches that you guys face, like, it probably gets exhausting. So what still keeps you like, okay, I'm going to do this again and again and again and
well,
again?
Every single one, it really is different. Yes, they've got a chassis and you're building wheel tubs and you're doing these things, but let alone myself, we've never done so we're doing a 65 GTO convertible. That's a new car that we've not done at Ringbrothers. I've not done one. And then we've got a 68 Charger that's going, and that one's got a Ray Barton Gen 2 Hemi that's going in it. And it's those things that are exciting and new, that's what keeps myself going. And I think I could speak for everybody with that, is that, if we were just you'll hear Jim and Mike talk about not wanting to do another Blazer or another, 69 Camaro or something. It's because, where the excitement and the passion and the drive comes from is getting excited about something new and trying to put a new twist on something that you haven't been able to play with before. If we were just doing the same car over and over, then that question I think would be a lot harder to answer of how you stay motivated if you're just building that same thing. But for us, where it's different, getting back, I couldn't wait to get my hands on that GTO because it's just gonna be cool. Looking at some of the early renderings, and we're gonna widen that car quite a bit. Custom grille, custom taillight panel, like it's gonna be slammed out. I'm excited for people to see that car. That one I think is gonna be really, really trick.
Yeah. I think the world is really like sort of interested in seeing a Ringbrothers GTO.
Yeah, I mean, we're again early renderings. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what does the process look like for you guys from start to finish? Do you always start with the render, or do you start with the car sometimes first? Like, what is that?
So in this case, the client came to us, and that's what he wanted. That's the car he wanted to do. So like, cool, and we talk basics, right? And the nice thing with with us kind of being a known style or known brand, right? If you say a Ringbrothers car, you have a general idea of what that's probably, the general scope, right? And we have a style. And one of the biggest compliments we get is I'll hear people say, like, I saw that car come around the corner and I knew it was a Ringbrothers car before I saw the sticker or the logo. And that's a hell of a compliment. And it's hard to put a finger on what that is. And I haven't heard anybody be able to necessarily do that. Everybody talks about details and this and that, but that's up close and looking at it. How somebody can tell it's one of our cars when it's pulling in the parking lot. It's just one of those things that people know, but haven't been able to necessarily describe. So with that, it's exciting to be able to put that spin on it. And, with that GTO, I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when we had them on, I asked them because it's very much that. It's like we get customers all the time that reference Ringbrothers cars and parts and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, what is that style? And they couldn't even nail it down. They're like, I don't know. We just build cars and I guess it's a thing, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So
it definitely has a flavor.
So when he came to us, he's like, I want to do this. And we kind of threw like, we could widen it and we'll obviously, roadster shop chassis and we'll drop it down. And we talk drivetrain on, it's going to be a supercharged GM power plant with, a 10 speed. And, we talk about these different things and what the intended use is going to be and some basic style points, right? And then we get on the same page, but that's kind of our vibe, right? It's going to be low, it's going to be powerful, it's going to be wide. And, he wants a a pretty unique interior, but also, very reminiscent of the original. So, a lot of these things that we're kind of known for is the reason that customers come to us. They kind of have an expectation of what that's generally going to look like. And then they, a lot of times will just let all the, like, you guys do you, and whatever you think, detail wise. And that's real fun for us. But yeah, so from there, we'll find a donor car, or if they have one, of course, they'll bring us that donor. And, we love roadster shops, so we'll call up the boys down there and get a chassis going. If it's going to be a custom one, we'll get the donor car down there to be scanned and get that custom chassis built. And then once that's in progress, then we'll start, throwing some renderings out just to get excited about it, right? Get those initial renderings, and sometimes they're wild and wilder than where we end up, and sometimes they're tame in comparison to where we end up. So it's all just kind of spitballing ideas into a drawing, because you can change a car on paper real quick in comparison to on metal or in carbon. So, we'll throw a bunch of renderings out and exaggerate some of those lines and then narrow that build from there. But, we have a good window while that chassis is being built before we actually start building the car, that we can really play with different ideas and start doing some CAD work and get those renderings figured out.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool process. I think we employ some of that too at our shop, because I think we just got with sort of land for rendering.
We brought a render guy in house just to help with some of the customers, because we comment all the time. Most of the customers, they know what they don't want, but they don't necessarily know what they do want. So now we have found that once this rendering process starts, it's kind of averaging 2.5, 3 months before they get to a place where we can start building it. Okay, this is what we're building? Cool. Whereas before, they were trying to figure that out while they expect sparks to be flying. So then that's kind of when the project jumped off, and everyone's kind of like, well, what are we doing? We're getting pissed off, or you're doing stuff and you're undoing it. You're changing, and it sort of demoralizes the crew. So now it's we started doing that, where it's okay, let's hash all this stuff out now. And of course, there's going to be subtle changes based on dimensions, or, when you start seeing things in reality and you hold it up there, okay, that doesn't look the way it should.
Right.
But it's definitely alleviated a lot of stresses for us.
Yeah. No, for
and
sure.
the customer's pumped, because, they seem to enjoy that part of the process.
Oh, for sure.
They get to just, they love it.
Yep. Yeah. It's, especially with, you have that overall 3/4 view of the car, you can get a lot of, general feel in there. But then when you get into interior renders, I find that customers really get excited again, because that happens down the road, right? And that kind of reinvigorates, is for us anyway, in our build process, interiors thought about at the very beginning, just like on Octavia, that was all done in CAD, but it wasn't dialed in till much later down the road. So it's kind of that second wind of it's really starting to look like a car when you start looking at renderings and you're going through leather samples and thread samples and these sort of things, and being able to render it. That also helps with that customer that maybe can't visualize the same way that the builders do, or your interior guy. It helps them to, if you have some wild idea and they're like, boy, you're just not sure. Well, if you can see it in a really well done render, they get excited, and then again they're like, yeah, do it, whatever it takes, I'm in it, let's go for it. And that's exciting for us too, right? And it there's spots in the build where you get kind of a little you've been in it and it hasn't had any major changes for enough time that you get a little kind of muddy with it and a little stagnant, and to get re-inspired on that next big step, interior design and some of the detail trim things, that it's a nice boost for us as well.
Yeah. And so in general, if you picture a car in your mind and it's this would be cool for a Ringbrothers redo, what would it be? You guys haven't done that. You're like, oh my gosh, would be your top for, I want to build this.
I mean, there's a lot of them. I still think, I think doing a Torino would be, I'd like to do a Gran Torino one of these days here. I think that'd be pretty.
There was a nice one there this year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
it's not really at the top of my list, but it's they did a really good job of it.
Yeah,
it's a big car though.
Yeah, Yeah, I think it'd be fun. And then honestly, there's Untapped. We kind of led into it with this Aston, but the British stuff. There's some really cool, that era
Any
60s,
Jags?
70s British stuff that's screaming to be resto modded. I'm all for it.
That's
I'm
awesome.
gonna put this out there because I think it should happen. I think Aston should take a knee and then do a collaboration with you guys.
I was literally we're talking
I think there
about
should
that.
be a series of Octavias with the Aston V12 in it.
Oh, that'd be something.
Has Aston hit you up or no?
No.
Wow.
It's
Usually it's a cease and desist, but in this, I think they should, literally
They should
take a
give
knee
credit,
and be like, "Can you guys
honestly.
help us, please?"
Yeah.
it's we're just real happy to to build something that people really seem to enjoy, and number one, our customer, right? He brought us that car and says, hey, let's do this thing, and we were just stoked to do something different and to pay homage to just such a killer car, right? Aston Martin is synonymous with with cool, and we wanted to put some of that cool flavor on it too,
Yeah, so cool. And there's a question I also have. So what are some unpopular opinions you have in custom car world, like tools, materials, build techniques, anything?
Well,
I'm actually curious.
If I'm big on, if it works for you, it works. If it works, it works.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I'm a real big. There's no wrong way to go about it, so long as you're effective, efficient, and the end result is what no matter how you get there. There's guys that some of these guys that are, a lot of them seem to be over in Europe, right, where they'll a hammer and a dolly, and they'll make a whole quarter panel, like just out of it's incredible, right? And there's techniques that you watch the way some of these panel beaters get to their end result, and it seems counterintuitive, and it's just incredible. So I learned a long time ago that end result is an important thing, and I wouldn't say it's an unpopular opinion, because I really don't look at it that way. I see it if it works for you and you're comfortable with it,
works, yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you to do it a different way or my way. So long as, again, you're efficient, effective, and that end result is what we're shooting for. I don't think there's any wrong way to go about any of it.
Okay, we just did a podcast with Saltworks, so I got to get your opinion on this. Like, the coolest thing about the car that you guys just did and was like taking it to the track and seeing this thing live is amazing, because it's a pretty rare thing in reality, especially with a car of that level. You don't get to see them be put through their paces. Like, I think Roaster Shop probably jumped that off with Road Rage back in the day. Like, the thing was insane, and then now they go out and beat the shit out of it. So getting to see your stuff on the track, blah, 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 and this car definitely has a presence. Like, it's its own thing now. Regardless of who's driving it, like, you look at it and it's like, that car has a presence. So speaking of panel beaters and all this kind of stuff, and they're putting soul into these panels and these cars, and now we're doing like 3D metal shaping and 3D printing, but at the end, I think the soul is in the car, and it's like what you've created, not necessarily how you got there.
Right.
Because I feel like there's a ton of soul in that car. Like,
Right.
I stood there for probably 40 minutes just staring at that car.
Right. And here,
So I didn't care how it got there, but I know that there's just an amazing amount of time and effort that went into that car.
right.
So do you feel it's any different between the two?
No, because these.
Because we got shit on when we did it.
Sure.
Like, we got like,
Well, and people think that if you do a carbon car, that it's like Legos, and the parts show up and you click them together.
put it together. Yeah.
There's a metal or aluminum substructure to all of those parts, and when those last carbon pieces get put on, that may be that step, but everything leading up to it, you're still just as into it, and it doesn't matter if you're taking like the Charger that we're doing. If you're replacing a quarter and you get the quarters from AMD and you're putting them on after you've repaired all the substructure, or you're widening the tubs, or you're flaring the quarters like on that one, or widening the car, same on the Mach 1 with the Kingpin. We widen that 1 3/4 in the front, around 2 inches in the rear, and a real nice belled All of that stuff is all the same. All of the making it work, the making it fit, the adjustment, all of the internals, the stuff you don't see. The skin might be carbon, but everything underneath, we're making window regulators and hinges and all of the entire chassis, of course, and all the structure that's built off of that, and the integrated roll bars and laying out the custom wiring and all of that, all of those, the heartbeat of that car, exhaust, drivetrain, control arms, all that stuff is all still, a pair of hands and a TIG welder, right? And some metal. And the fact that it gets skinned down the road in carbon instead of sheet metal, that really doesn't take away from the heart and soul of that car. And especially, the thousands and thousands of hours that we had into it, that's a testament right there to, the time that you spend on, just something as simple as, say, the way that the column's going to pass through the firewall, and sitting in there and mocking it up and putting different guys in there and looking at how it feels and what, proximity to the dash and proximity to the driver and where you sit within the door, and all of those things. Even though it's all been designed in CAD, you still need to physically sit in it and get a taste for what this thing feels like, and as you say, the soul of the car, to really just sit with it and be in it. That's where that comes from, and not necessarily in the fact that you're using technology to get there.
That's amazing. And so for anybody that's, I guess, it's because you've been doing this for so long, like the last question is, what would you give? They've asked you this question probably like 2,000 times. Like, what is like one thing, I guess, that stuck with you that you would give to someone for like advice, or what to?
Yeah, I tell you what, there's a way that I try to look at things, there's a number of different ways, right? It depends on what the context is. But at the end of the day, if you say no, or you look at something and you think that it can't be done, then it can't. You have answered the question of whether or not it can.
Wow.
So forget about that. Forget about you can't. There isn't. Don't think that way, and it will come about. Just like that car, we never allowed ourselves for a moment to think that it wasn't going to get done. Because if you say it's not going to get done, well, then it's not. But if you it's going to get done, there's just no two ways about it. Well, look, there it is. It's done. And I think that's important in everything, right? If you're making a scoop, or a custom air cleaner, and you say, well, I can't do that. No, you can't. Absolutely, you cannot. If your attitude going into it is that you cannot do it, then you are absolutely 100% correct. But if you go into it of like, I'm going to figure this thing out because I need an air cleaner and it needs to look like this, just stick with it and it will become. I've been doing it a long time, and that has never failed me, whether it's me or someone else.
Wow.
You just stick with it of, I need to make this thing and it needs to look like this. You will get there. The moment that you say that it just isn't going to work, well, then you might as well just go home, because it's not gonna.
Dang, that is powerful. Mic drop, as they say.
Truly powerful words. And it's so true. You're absolutely right. Mentality, your outlook on it will dictate everything.
Absolutely.
100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so awesome. And so I don't know if you guys have anything else or anything you wanted to ask or add.
Well, we don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah.
We'll have to get back on when you finish the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to come back on.
I'm sure you're done talking about this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You're probably like, oh my gosh, someone is asking about this car again. Actually, did you ever get like that where you were like, oh gosh, or like, would you ever get tired of talking about it, or no?
No, but it's funny. When you get to about Friday of SEMA, sometimes you don't even realize that you're doing an interview, and you've just in it, right, with the key points. And I found myself, what's really funny, I'm sure you guys will appreciate this, is not even in an interview, just having a conversation with somebody, but you're in that mode of like thanking the sponsors. And this guy's like, oh, just asked what kind of tires you like, but that, but we really don't, that the reason we're out there is we love talking about the things that we do. And, that's just, for me, especially, like being able to to shine a light on all of the people that are involved, and making sure that everyone realizes what is involved in these. And like you said, with trying to explain to a customer what's involved in the process of getting all these things lined up, trying to explain how many people are so critical to any one of these projects is an endeavor in itself. But I certainly tried, because we couldn't do it without everybody that's involved in these projects.
Wow.
Yeah. We try to explain that to our customers and try to get everybody involved, as much appreciation as we can.
Right.
Because like the CAD stuff now, like as amazing as it is, it's like, if you're not educated in it, it's like these guys almost think like you speak into the front of the machine. So it kind of gets just, like, can't you just scan it? And you're like, okay,
Right.
sure we can. Then what do you want to do with it? And then it's like you have to educate them on all these additional steps to get to the final part. So it's like, that's kind of why we started this podcast, is to just talk to more people about all this kind of stuff and other shops and who's doing what and how they're doing it and all those kind of things, and trying to get more of that information out there, because it's like the disconnect between customers and builders there's still a pretty big one.
Right.
Like trying to educate them, because again, not to shit on all these TV shows, because I watch them and I enjoy them, but they don't give enough sort of timeline and credit to all these different people that are doing things. Like, we got to work with HRE this year, and it's like, you don't get to just call them up and be like, hey, we need wheels by Friday.
Right.
Like that doesn't happen. Like, and it's like, and they're still pushing, they're putting time, effort, and making concessions for you. And it's like, like you don't want to abuse any of those relationships, because once in a while you got to like, hey, do you think you can just get this done? So it's like trying to make sure everybody gets everything that they need. And
yeah, it's funny you say that. I will say that maybe 2 months out from being done with Octavia, there was a number, and you brought up HRE, so I'll pick on them for a moment. But used to be second dial, the second ring, they're answering, and then all of a sudden it's 4 rings, and then it's 5 rings, and then I got a message.
Yep.
But that's and they're great. I'm just giving a hard time to Patrick and those guys, but really, that's everybody puts so much into all these. And it isn't just, hey, we need some wheels. Like there's engineering involved, and safety and design and all these different components, and being able to maintain that schedule and that workflow it requires a lot of phone time, right? Of checking in on guys. And again, just so fortunate to have this industry. The thing I kept saying at SEMA was it's like a big family reunion for us. I know it is for me. So many people I get to see only that one time a year. We see each other, on the internet, right? Instagram and Facebook and all the things, YouTube and podcasts and such. But to sit down and just catch up is so important. And all of those phone calls, then we laugh about it. There's a couple of the guys that, they would talk about, like, they'd see my number come up and it was like, yes, I'm working on it. Because for me, we're like, hey, we got 3 weeks. We need to. My schedule says we're doing a photo shoot on Wednesday, but so it's a great relief for everybody, especially when you can all stand around it and it's all hugs and high fives.
Yeah.
And jokes aside, of like, give me a month or two before you call me again, right? Because it'll start up, and I can be pretty relentless sometimes, and but you have to, right? And we have
you need to get the job
back
done.
and forth, and
If you wait long enough and then you don't call them, they always call you like, hey, what's going on here?
Right.
Are we doing something or what?
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's all good.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it's so important to keep lighthearted about it, because if we all take this shit too serious, then what are we doing, right? That's where you lose the passion, and that's where that excitement in doing something new is lost, and you're just kind of punching out something repetitive, So it's critical to keep smiling and laughing, and especially, I mean, you guys know the industry, right? Like we rib each other pretty hard, whoever it is, right? I have to tell you, this one was pretty funny at SEMA. So we were doing an interview. Well, Mike was doing an interview. I don't remember even who with, but cameras and microphone and the whole deal. And Noah and Charles from Classic Car Studio, they had some loose bolts and they threw them under Octavia. And then they, yeah, what's this? And you put her in the background of Mike doing an interview with a bunch of random bolts. And then, of course, that went back and forth. And Mike went and sprinkled them on their truck. And he was telling random people walking by. He's like, hey, does anybody know whose truck this is? Somebody should get a hold of this guy.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, Mike's there doing his interview with the cameras, and Noah and Charles are looking at bolts that they're pulling out of their pocket from underneath the car. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It's good times.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get deep into the ball busting around here, and we got our new young guy, and he'd never experienced any of it. So when we laid into him, he just froze. He didn't know what to do. I was like, you better get used to this, man.
Oh, yeah.
It gets a lot worse than this. We're starting soft on you.
Yep.
So it's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Like, we've been looking forward to chatting with you for a while. And yeah, we're looking forward to having you on in the future too.
Love to do it.
Because you guys always build amazing cars. So are you guys do you guys go to PRI?
No, we haven't done it. You know, some of our guys have gone just on their own, but we haven't ever set up.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of a different world, but at the same time, like, you know, we had Octavia on the racetrack, so maybe that's a world we need to, you know, we need to jump into.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I think we're doing PRI next year too.
Nice.
So it should be pretty cool. But yeah, thank you so much again. We'll let you go. But if you guys liked this video / podcast, give it a thumbs up and follow Ryan, Fab Guy Ryan. Is that it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Fab Guy Ryan on Instagram. Yeah, we will see you guys later. Bye.
So Wednesday, I got to go down and do the oil and whiskey podcast with the Roadster Shop boys. So that should be. We'll see how that goes.
Now I'm getting good.
I don't know if you
doing it
saw
in
the
person?
one Mike and Jim did it 2 years ago.
Yeah. That was infamous, man. Come on.
Oh my God. It's funny. Just the other. I have dinner with my parents every Tuesday. I go have dinner with my
awesome.
folks. And I forgot that I was even doing this podcast. And just so happened to be last Tuesday, my dad, we was talking about SEMA and how that went and everything. And, you know, all the podcasts and interviews and everything. And he goes, well, just don't go drinking whiskey with those Roadster Shop boys. You'll end up like Mike and then all of a sudden I went to the calendar like, oh, actually Wednesday. I mean, doing exactly that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I listened to that one, so I'm always excited when it's a in studio one because you know it's going to get good.
right. Yeah,
But they set the bar for sure.
yeah. And that's, you know, it's nice when you know, like those two set the, like, I don't think it would take a lot for me to outlandish what they had going on with their stories of stealing dynamite and blowing up stuff, and so it's good. The stories that come out, you know, we're a small town, and you know, like I said, we all went to the same high school, Mike and Jim and myself.
Wow.
And you know, they're in a town of 700 and we're in a town of 1,200 where the shop is. I mean, and what's so funny too is we talk about this all the time is, you know, we do these cars for people all over the world, right? And like Mohammed Ben Sharif for the president of Formula One, you know, last year we met him. He came to talk to us in the booth, and then this year a couple times, and he had Mike and Nancy down to one of the races, and you know, so he's, you know, we chat regularly, right? Text back and forth, and then literally there'll be somebody that lives 4 blocks down the street. They're like, "What do you guys do there?" You know, they don't have any idea who Mike Ring is or what Ringbrothers are, or they
That's
just
amazing.
no idea, right? But then you have, you know, like I said, Mohammed, you know, the president of Formula One,
So wild. Like,
you know,
what?
is calling every other day
crazy.
to shoot the breeze, but yet, you know, Gloria down the street doesn't know.
Yeah. Well, I literally had that situation last night because we were out and I had sushi and everyone's wearing their, you know, our shop shirts and stuff. And the lady's like, "Oh, you build cars?" You're like, "Yeah. I got this light in the dash that says,"
Right.
like, "Yeah, I can't help you with that. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
But she was like waiting for me to come back in. She's like, "You work on cars, right?" And I'm like, "Well, kinda."
Well, it's so funny, you know, back when I started my shop, it was, you know, very early biker build off, like that hadn't quite, it was right in that peak, right? When everybody had a chopper shop, right? The early 2000s.
Yeah.
I started mine like 99, but anyway, and I remember people would be like, "Oh, you know, you build bikes?" "Yeah." And they're like, like those guys on the TV that
Oh my God.
We're from the fathers in there yet. Or the same era.
just like
And that's
that.
what you got every single time. Same question.
Yep.
Say I'm a mechanic. Like, what do you do for work? Like, I'm a mechanic. Otherwise, it ends up right back there. It's like those guys. You're like, nothing like those guys.
Right. Yep. That one always cracked me up, and it's fun though, and it's where it's exciting to go like somewhere like SEMA, right, and have where you can just talk. You don't have to explain what do you mean
What
it
you
costs
do.
$2 million?
Right.
You
like,
just have
"That's
those
it?"
conversations, and
But yeah, SEMA is fucking great, man. I just being able to be surrounded by so many like-minded individuals is so great.
right.
Myself, I'm fairly introverted as a human. I would never talk cars with anybody, but go to SEMA, I find myself talking until I'm fucking exhausted.
Right.
I'm wiped by the end of the week.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's the jumping off point of where the conversation is. Like, you're sort of starting at, you're not trying to educate somebody. Like,
Right.
So it's a lot more, it's kind of like this. It's an easy conversation.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have an understanding what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Nuts.
But when you're at the dinner party with the wife and you're just like,
Right.
I'm looking at this Camaro, it's 17 grand. Is that a good deal? You're like, I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, that's the,
I should have.
You think I could do something for 30? You're like, not with us.
right. Yeah. And that happens,
Yeah.
like you're talking about going to sushi, just the other night, at dinner, I was Friday night, and I was waiting for a friend of mine, and him and his wife were meeting me for dinner. I was sitting at the bar having a drink before they got there, and it's a place that I've been going for 20 years, right? And Eric, the owner, is the bartender, makes the best Manhattan in all of Wisconsin, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, so this guy happens to be sitting next to me, and he's the tattoos and the jewelry, and he's trying to figure me out. And I was just what do you do? What's your story? And like, I work on cars. And he kind of it didn't make sense to him. And Eric, the owner, he's like, well, he kind of explained, which was nice because you always try to be humble, right? And not, how do you explain what it is that we do without saying what it is we do, right? You're building these, pretty elaborate machines that are very custom, and to somebody that isn't part of that world, they don't understand that. Like, what do you mean some guy from Saudi Arabia is having you build him a Camaro? Like, it don't.
Can you get it done there?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, just it's sometimes it's nice to not right, have those conversations.
Yeah.
Or if you're somewhere where it's a bunch of like-minded people and you don't have to feel weird about, you can just say like, yeah, we get $2.5 million in that Aston Martin. That's it's not, doesn't seem braggadocious, because it absolutely isn't. It's just an indication of like what shit costs. New custom everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when it like comes across the way that it did, like seeing it and hearing the story about how it actually performs, and then you're like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Like,
I
those are
can
wild.
see that. I can almost imagine that would be the case.
Yeah, so like those were wild numbers before, but they're not. Like now, you see some stuff, you're like, how the hell? Where did they put the other $500,000 in the bank? Because it's not in the car.
Right.
But like, you look at that car and it's like, we've talked about it many times. Like, if someone gave me a $2 million budget, it's like, I don't know what I would build. Like,
Yeah.
I'd build. But now after seeing that, it's like, sky's the limit.
Right.
Like,
Well,
you know?
it's
Well, and-
and one of the things too, if like our labor rate's $100 an hour, right? So even at 6,000 hours, 7,000 hours is not out of reach for pretty much any shop, right? Like, that's to do a high level build. I mean, that's where your 5,000-6,000 hours is probably about where you're gonna be. To do a complete chassis and widen the car and do all the things, and that's including design time and all of that stuff. But like, so you look at Octavia, if you just, because we know what ours is, but if you branch it into CAD and design and all these different things, just making an even 10,000 hours, what is $1 million in labor?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't
Easy.
even bought a spark plug yet. And even at 5,000 hours, or like the Mustang, that was 5,500 hours thereabouts. That was all in the shop, between fab and assembly and paint and all that. You're again, easy math, you're at over $500,000 in labor. That's before the donor car, before the goddamn
parts,
Whipple supercharged Coyote, and before Bowler's transmission and the roaster shop chassis, and interior is not getting any cheaper. You're six figures for a beautiful interior these days. So that it blows my mind constantly. We're just like, God dang it, we can't afford our own cars, that's for sure.
Yeah, like that's a fast say for us. And like even with how transparent people have gotten now with the cost of these cars, it's like Ringbrothers is probably like the single largest point of reference that people bring in. And you could say like this car costs this many millions of dollars. They'll still come in and be like, I want to build something like this. I got $300,000. Yeah, like, but you're bringing me a $2 million piece of reference, and you want to like, how are we going to do that for 10% of the money?
Right.
So it's like it's wild out there, but we're working through it.
I wish we could, but it's just what it comes down to. Just plain takes. If you have an expectation of the level being at a certain point, some of it just takes time. You can get cheaper wheels or a less expensive motor or a transmission from Summit instead of Bowler, whatever. But at the end of the day, there's some stuff that just plain takes thousands of hours to do.
It costs what it costs.
Yeah, it's wild, especially on the CAD side, because it's a time-consuming process. So like once you put the hours to it, it's like everything costs money. So even for us, there's some things where it's like, yeah, that was more than I anticipated. Like, because we're new to a lot of these processes and then working all the way through them. And it's like, we did a whole one-off chassis and it probably took 3 months. And that's just in the computer all day, every day. And then we built it, I think, in 5 days. Yeah. Like the fabricated, like welded, finished, installed in the car. But it's like, that's still a $50,000 chassis. Like, right. So you're not really, you know what I mean? Like it's wild. No, so trying to convey this to customers because they want to see us making sparks and welding. Now you're working on my car.
Right.
But it's like, that is just as valuable. But the end result is so much better.
Right.
Like, it's hard to educate them. Like it's going to take a bit, but it's like the end result, like we're standing back and looking at it and it's like, this is pretty close to roaster shop. Like this is really nice. Yeah. Like, we wouldn't have been able to do that 2 years ago. No. Now we can.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild, but trying to get the customer to pay for that because they see poor Alex at the computer and he's like, what are you doing in there, buddy?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What is the same with the carbon stuff? You do a one-off hood and you're $100,000 into a hood. Well, how do you tell a customer, like, there's your $100,000 hood?
But don't worry, the next one's going to be $5,000.
Yeah. Right. So it is about educating and there's shops, and Mike and Jim are real good about, walking these customers through, and that is some of the role that I take on as well, going through this process. But I know there's builders out there that will not build a car for somebody that has not gone through the process before.
It's kind of, we've made that mistake, and it's usually because it's like within a friend circle, and I don't think I would ever do it again either. Yeah. Like that's just,
we do it all the time, and it's just, that's where, like I said, just there's a lot of communication that happens up front and honestly some vetting, right? Of like, just, you can have a number of conversations with somebody and get a pretty good vibe for where this is at. Maybe they haven't had a car custom built, but they've got a collection that, or they know, or their friend or something, right? That, but it's tough, and it's certainly something that we try to honestly to scare them off before it ever gets started. And if they're willing to, like, I'm not scared, like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, but you guys got, that super transparent communication, and then also like the history, the track record of completing this sort of level of build. Right.
I mean, that helps too, is they know that
most definitely
we're over, I think, almost 50 SEMA builds.
Wow. Right. And like, it's like when you're talking, it's very apparent that this isn't just fluff. Like, you're not just trying to bullshit me.
Right.
And
that, like, it's got to be, I can't imagine for a shop that's tried to do their first one of that level, right? Because everything's going to be scrutinized. Whereas, at this point, you would like to think that, if that were the case with us, like, that would be well known of, like that, you got to really check your invoices with these guys or something. And that's not that's I think where we have the luxury of a little more ease, because people know that like, hey, we're going to look you in the eye and tell, if anything, we're cutting hours off because, we just feel like, that took a little bit longer than it probably should have. And, that happens a lot for us. We'll sit down at the end of it and look at like, what do we feel there's room that like, maybe like, well, we're going to, that one's on us, or, whatever the case is. And that's something I do throughout the week, just looking at all the guys' time books. Every Monday morning, I go through the time books and everybody puts in what they're working on. And of course I pay attention through the week. And there's times where, I need to know, like, we're not billing out Thursday and Friday, because, there was a hiccup and it was not, that's something that one's on us. Right. And I think that over decades and decades, right, that gets known of like, they were going to treat you fair. So, if it's $1 million, it's probably 1.5.
Yeah.
And I know Mike's real big that way too. He puts in his book says 8 hours every day, but that man is here 70 hours a week.
Wow.
And that's just he's in it. And that's part of it, right? Is it's for the joy. And the hard thing for Mike, myself, is we bounce around so much that to assign it, is 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 2-minute phone call for this. We try to be real mindful of that as well. And again, the biggest thing, and you'll hear Mike say it, is being able to look the customer in the eye at the end of it. And whatever that number is, for them to know that like, that is
the best.
The number. And there's no fluff. There's no, we're trying to get a new fucking outboard for the ski boat. Like,
there's a lot of it though. Like we just dealt with a shop that was like, some of the stories were wild. Like they damaged the guy's car and then they want $3,200 to fix it. And I'm like, didn't he hit the door? It's like,
yeah.
Well, your car was in the way of what I was moving. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, that's crazy.
There's shops I've dealt with over the years where honestly, I've said to other people, like, how is that guy alive? Like, how is he not in the bottom of a lake somewhere?
Yeah. Well, right. Like, that's this particular guy I'm talking about is like, how is nobody just like the shit you hear is just absolutely insane.
How has that shop not been firebombed already? Like what?
Right.
Because just straight up just taking advantage of people, or like, give me X amount. Like there was one that I did, the guy, it was a 29 sedan, like standard street rod, right? And so the shop it was at, they had gotten a chassis, and it was first of all, it's the wrong chassis, but it was so they had clearly it was for a different build or something, and they put it on there. But it's a Speedway chassis. They put the body, set it on that chassis with the small block that the customers provided, and they did a chop. So, and on a 29, a chop on a 29 is as easy as it gets. It's all straight down, and you just take off.
Yeah.
Anyway, $70,000.
Oh, what?
He paid it. And then it sat there for like 4 years. Finally, he pulled it out of there, and I built the whole thing, interior, and drive it down the road for less than that, right? And
wow.
And that guy, that's the story over and over and over with that guy.
Wow.
Is, and it's like, again, it's like how do you have both your legs? And
yeah,
right, like
I just don't know how they get so much like. Where this particular customer came from these guys, and I had some work done by them that we farmed out, but they were like a friend of a friend at the time. And then of course they told me everything I wanted to hear, and it did not go like that. But it's like the money that he got out of this guy is like, he's $440,000 into a car that has no interior. You can't roll up the windows. The AC doesn't work and all this crazy shit. And you're just like, how do you get this far?
right. Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. And then I'm squeezing customers to, settle up their bill for the week.
Right. Well, and then, the biggest thing for me is like, how do you, like, if I felt a customer was cross with me about anything, like if he felt slighted or anything, like it would make me sick. Like I would be at his house, like, no, dude, like we need to talk about this. That's not the case. Let me bring you down to the shop, show you, whatever the case, whatever it is. But to just be like, like,
yeah, dude,
indifferent to just blatantly robbing people. Like, I don't know how you I don't know how you go home and like, oh, that's cool. Like, and if you see the guy out at the gas station, how you're like, hey, Jim, how's it going? I'd be expected to get driven over, you know?
I think it was. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I didn't think that shit still happened.
Yeah.
Like, we dropped off a Corvette, and I had budgeted a certain amount of money to have the car stripped. So I was like, how you accomplish that is completely up to you. I don't care. Keep it in the house. Put your guy on it. Mechanically strip it. Chemically blast. Don't care. I dropped it off on the Monday. Friday, I got a bill for 165 hours to strip the car. I was like, how did you manage that? I had 5 guys on it, fucking 20 hours a day. I was like, dude, there's not 5 guys that will even fucking work for you. Never mind 20-hour days for you. I was like, that doesn't even, like, and I own a shop.
Yeah.
Like, you might be able to pull this shit on somebody else, but I know what this takes.
Right.
That's why I gave you a number in the very first incident, first billing period, and it was like, oh man, this is going to be bad. And it got bad.
Yeah.
I showed up with texts and bills and, hey, if you need to call the cops, go ahead because the car's leaving today.
Right.
Because they had a bunch of other customers trying to get their cars out of there, and they just called the cops every time. And I was like, well, I'm prepared. I got all my invoices, proof of payment. I got everything. The car's leaving with me today.
Yep.
And in a way it went. But, man, I just can't believe people can operate.
Yeah.
Well, they just moved. They just go from town to town and change the name.
Yeah.
Like, it's, wow, this is their third or fourth move in name change.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, someone's got to crack this guy's head.
Well, it's just, you know, I was just talking with a friend the other day, and you know, people just, it's not commonplace to get punched in the mouth as often as it used to be, and it shows, right? Like it used to be, like you're just gonna get your teeth are gonna be in the back of your head,
No.
and then you don't do it anymore. But that just, you know, it just doesn't happen.
And it's kind of sad.
It's clear, right?
It's kind of sad. We talk about it all the time. We're like, we need to bring back fucking mouth punches here. It used to be a thing again.
Yeah.
I got punched in the mouth when I was in grade 8, and it was a life-changing experience.
Yeah, I remember specifically the first time I got punched in the mouth. I had braces, and my braces went through my lip. Oh yeah, right. You know, and right through my bottom lip, and I absolutely deserved it because. On the school bus, and I was talking smart and lippy, and he just had enough. And that's it. You know what? That was back when, like, if there's repercussions. If you're gonna act like that, you might get punched in the mouth, and that's exactly what happened. And I just sat down of like, well, I guess I shouldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
It's a hard lesson.
Clear as day, man.
Yeah, I remember. Again, that was, I mean, it had to be like 40 years ago. Wow. But here I am. I can tell you his name.
Still
I
stays
remember
with you.
where I was sitting on the bus. Very
Wow.
clear. That was a lesson.
Yeah. See? Yeah. Those are bullet points in life that I said more people should have.
Absolutely.
I had an incident just not long ago where I drugged this kid out of a booth again at sushi because he was just making all kinds of noises, being inappropriate. So I went over there and I leaned in and he tried to take a shot at me and I drug him out by his ankle and threw him against the wall and he called the cops and all this crazy shit. And by the end of it, and he's telling his story to the cop's like, okay, do you want to apologize? And the guy's just like, what the fuck?
Right.
I called the cops and I got to apologize to this guy?
Right.
And I was like, and then we talked about it afterwards. I was like, I hope I changed that kid's life. Like, this should be a defining moment for him because when he's on the call to 911, it's like, this old guy, he did this, and this. And I was like, I didn't think I'd ever going to be that old guy because I was you at one point. Right. And then now I hope that just, you know, because he's there with this girl being obnoxious and all this shit. And I was like, I probably made him a new man, and I'm happy about that.
Well, you most definitely changed the trajectory of his girlfriend's life. That's for sure.
Right.
I don't know if that's still his girlfriend, but it's probably for the best too.
Right.
Anyways, we'll tell a story.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. We'll let you go.
Right up, guys. Yeah.
Thank
Hit me
you
up
so
anytime.
much.
And
Thank you so much.
Let me know when it's all going to air, and look forward to talking with you again next time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.